So I just wanted to do a quick short video on meditation and a little bit of like the science and research that basically surrounds meditation. So essentially the purpose of meditation is really to decrease your body's own natural stress response. So most of us will already know of the system in place, which is called the fight or flight system. Okay, so this is actually known as your sympathetic nervous system. Okay, now this actually drives up certain factors in the body. So it basically drives our stress response hormones. Now those two hormones, the main two hormones that are involved in stress are adrenaline, which most people have actually heard of, and the other one is cortisol, which maybe people haven't heard quite so much about. Now, both of these will have a dramatic effect on the way that the body actually responds to the environment. Now, as part of the stress response, we need it for survival. So say, for example, we need that adrenaline and cortisol. Now, let me explain a little bit why. Now, if a tiger ran through my door right now and was about to eat me, I know for a fact that I would drastically need my adrenaline and cortisol responses to occur. And the reason being is that the purpose of adrenaline reduces your fatigability. So basically what that means is that it stops you from feeling tired so quickly, which if you're going to fight with a tiger or run a mile, you really, really want that. Now, the other thing that adrenaline will do is it will spike your heart rate and blood pressure, so you can get as much oxygen around to as many different organs as you possibly can. Now, again, massively, massively vital in a situation where a tiger might be chasing you. Now, cortisol increases our level of alertness, especially with the brain. It allows our short-term decision-making to become better. However, any rational thoughts or long-term thoughts are going to be irrational when our adrenaline levels and cortisol levels are high. So let me give an example. Is if you speak to someone that's incredibly stressed and they're really, really stressed, and you keep talking to them, and you're trying to get an answer from them, and they go, "For goodness sake, can you just stop? I just can't think." And the reason that they've said that is because of this hormone, because it's inhibiting those longer thought processes. Okay. Now, cortisol actually has another couple of functions that it does. It drives the glucose to the brain. So like I say, it really helps with that function of short-term quick thoughts, so you can react fast in a dangerous situation. However, that basically means that all of the glucose that is needed for tissue repairs goes out the window. Now, the other thing that cortisol actually helps us with is with our appetite, and it also helps with, or actually inhibits our appetite. So our need for food goes down. Okay, when you're stressed, typically you actually want higher energy foods, typically very high in glucose. And again, the reason we want that high glucose is because we're driving all of that sugar up to the brain in order to keep that brain working as fast as possible. And we're actually looking, and again, the adrenaline helps us to take faster terms of energy, so sugar. So we absorb that sugar really, really fast, and we'll just burn it straight up because we're basically working at 100 miles an hour. The lungs are working fast, the heart is working fast, the muscles are having to work a lot. We're having to keep producing the adrenaline, the cortisol, we keep sending that glucose to the brain. And so we're always looking for fast energy fixes. So typically a high stress person will always crave sugar. So the purpose of meditation really, or the function of meditation is really to try and come away and drop the adrenaline levels and the cortisol levels right down, and really take us more to a state of what we call rest and digest. Okay, now this area is typically controlled by something called our parasympathetics. Now, what they basically found is the parasympathetic nerves in our body, they basically come from the top and the bottom of our spine. But essentially, those that regularly meditate have actually been shown to have a much more reactive parasympathetic nervous system. And actually, they've managed to observe, people have managed to take conscious control of being able to switch on their parasympathetic nervous system. And again, just by taking that time to switch your brain from a state of stress or fight and flight and take it more to a state of rest and recovery, we can actually start to see that people are actually managing to change the way that their tissues react. And actually what we basically know is that if we only look at the physical and chemical dysfunctions in people, then we can miss a massive part of why people's diseases are not actually healing. And actually, Joe Dispenza talks about this in his books really, really well. In fact, I've got one of them just sitting right here. This book, absolutely brilliant book. This talks a lot about the psychology, and this has got a lot more of the science that's surrounding this information. In fact, this gentleman, Dr. Joe Dispenza, actually has a lot of his research up on YouTube, and he'll give that information to you for free because he believes in this information so much. Now, again, just to give you a brief history of this guy, he actually fractured 7 bones in his spine. Being a chiropractor, refused all medical intervention, refused to have surgery, and went through things, the naturopathic response. Now, the reason he accredits his recovery is all to do with the mindfulness and the meditation and the visualization of his tissues and his body healing, and really driving. And now that he's actually starting to research the reason why they see that occurred, is because actually we're seeing this part of the body drive up. Some ways of actually accessing this or utilizing. So ways of accessing and utilizing and getting into early stages meditation. Joe Dispenza actually has a free video on YouTube. You can look it up, Joe Dispenza's meditation. It's about 15 minutes long, and it's a really simple way of going for a body scan and just actually starting to just learn how to relax. Other ways, you've got stuff like the apps called Headspace. And then obviously you've got tons and tons of video resources that are all over YouTube, the internet, there's downloadable apps, etc. There's even books and stuff. If you go to places like The Works, there are books on how to actually start meditation. If you've got any further questions, obviously just ping me an email and I'll be happy to kind of direct you in the right direction. I hope you've learned something from this. Like I say, it's always nice for me to be able to go into a little bit more of the research and the science of areas, not just surrounding chiropractic, but what we know about chiropractic is a holistic approach. And we actually want people not only to take care of their physical health, but their emotional health, and then also their chemical health as well. So the stuff that they're putting in. And that's essentially where, if you haven't already seen my previous video, we talked about the 3 T's: thoughts, toxicity, and trauma. Are going to be the 3 things that essentially cause illness or disease into the body and actually disfunct the nervous system. And what we're essentially seeing is that by having an emotional response, actually the chemicals that our own natural chemicals our body responds or produces are actually going to change as well. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and I hope to speak to you again soon.